Good morning and welcome to this week's 30-minute challenge where I try and recreate a famous website in just 30 minutes. This week I'm recreating the Harry Styles website. You will learn all about full site editing, all about managing menus, creating mobile menus, editing the Theme.json, editing page templates and lots of other cool stuff besides. Let's get into it. On the left is my brand new website, and over on the right this is obviously Harry's website. So I'm going to start as ever when I'm building a WordPress website by creating some structure. So I'm just going to go back to the dashboard and I'm just going to create some pages. So I'm going to go add new page, and a few things I always do here. I'll get rid of that dialog box. I'm going to call this home, but a few things I always do when I'm starting out. I always fix the toolbar to the top, so it's up here. I always get out of full screen mode, which is just this little option here, so your menus come back. Oh, and the other thing I always do is go to preferences and turn off the pre-published checklist, which is just irritating. And now we can just publish that page. So all I'm going to do is create some pages, because the first step is always to create the structure. So all I'm going to do is write these pages in. So that's another page. So we've now got our pages listed up here, but they're in the wrong order. So there's two things I want to do to get the structure right. The first is actually to set the home page. So I'm going to go down to settings and reading. And up here where it says your homepage displays, it's currently set to show your latest posts. So I'm going to change that to a static page, and I'm going to select that page I built called Home. And that means that will now be the front page of my site. So this is where we're going to jump into the full site editor. Up here, we just need to click on Edit Site, and that will take me into the full site editor. And then I need to click on the W, which is slightly irritating. And then we'll come back to this page in a few minutes, but then we've got our templates. These are all the page templates that come with the 2023 theme. And these are our template parts. And the one we want to edit at the moment is this one here, the header one, because that's where our menu is. And there we go. And let's just click on the list view, which I recommend you do when you're working in the block editor, really, most of the time. It'll just make your life a lot easier. And there's our navigation block. And you'll see, actually, even though it looks like a menu, we haven't created a menu. All that's happened is WordPress has bunged our our page titles up there. So we're going to now click on Select Menu and click this option here, Create a New Menu. And now that'll basically start us to create a new menu. So all I want to do is find those three pages. So in the search box, I'm going to search for tour and then just click on it here to add it. It's actually hidden behind this little plus, which is a bit clunky, but you can sort of see it. And then shop. And then we've got the third one, which is listen. And we're just really not really worried about the styles at this point. All we're worried about is creating the correct structure. So now I need to go back and look at the site. I just want to check my work. So there's two ways to do that. You can click on W and then go back to the dashboard, or you can just get rid of everything in front of your domain name and go and look at it. That's going to get easier as well in the future, because at the moment it's kind of clunky. Okay, so now we've got these in the right order. I think it's time to start to think about styling. And the first thing I'm going to do is change the fonts, because he's got different fonts to my site. I'm going to use a cool browser extension, which is called What Font, which I'll link to in the description below, which lets you basically hover over any item on a website once you've activated it, and it'll tell you what font that site is using. This site is using Trooper_Jazzer in regular. And there is another website which you can then go to that font. If you can't get that font, then this website will give you equivalents. Mine's called Trooper_Jazz in regular. And if I start typing in here, we should be able to find it. Now you can choose any of these fonts. Let's have a quick look. And what we're really looking for is one that we know is available within the plugin I'm going to be using, or a free Google font. And I know that Poirot 1 is actually available, and that looks pretty close to me. So I think I'm going to go for this one here. Seems fairly similar to Harry's. I'm going to need a plugin for this. It's this one here. I'm just going to install that. So I can click on Customize Fonts. That will basically launch me into the customizer. And let's have a look and see if Poirot 1 is here. If I could spell, there it is. Yeah, it is here, good. And you see how the fonts are changing, and I'm pretty happy with that. That's pretty close. It's not exact, obviously, because it's not the same font, but it's pretty similar. And with this plugin, you can change actually more than I'm showing you today. You can get more control over each heading, and then there's a pro version as well where you can change the colors, but we can change the colors somewhere else. So it's going to be enough for us. That's pretty close. Obviously, the sizes are wrong, and we need to change the site title, but I'm okay with the actual style. It's a nice font. It's a nice font. Right, so before we change the size of these, let's just go off and change the color. And this is where we can use the site editor. global stars, which are very powerful, but are kind of really hidden to find them. So you go back to the site editor, and it's this little icon up here. Can you see where it says styles? Just there. So let's click into that, close down that dialog box, and that'll open up your global stars. Now there's lots here. I'm just going to show you what I need. In fact, let me show you one more thing. So you can actually style individual blocks, which is kind of cool. So let's say I wanted to style my buttons. I could do that here. For now, I just want to change the colors. So let's close that down. Let's go back to colors. And can you see here, these are global colors for the whole site. So I just want to nab the actual color here. And again, there's a good free browser extension that you can use, which is this one here called Colorzilla, which lets you pick colors on a website. There we go. And it'll just copy it to your clipboard, and then I can jump over here and just paste those colors in. And can you see how the colors are changing here? And you can change headings. I think the headings are probably all right anyway, but let's change those. That's all saved. Let's go and look at the site now. And the colors look pretty good, I think. I'm pretty happy with those. Let's scroll up. Yep, pretty good. Not bad at all. So what I'm going to do next is I just want to change the size of this menu and pop in my proper site title, and then we'll move on to editing the actual homepage, Harry's homepage. So edit site. So I'm just going to write the proper site title in here, which is Harry Styles. And then I want to change the height of it, and the size of it. So I've got it selected. So here on the right, I can actually either put a custom size or choose one of these sizes. I'm going to try custom size at the moment. Let's see how we go with this. That might be too big, but we'll have a look in a minute. And then this one, I think, let's make that a bit bigger. And I'm pretty happy with that. That's not bad at all, actually. So let's stick with that. That's pretty good. Probably going to have some margin issues, and I want to do things like this little background hover thing at some point. But first, I want to set this page up. Now, at the moment, we've got some issues because we've got, if I put any content in this page, it's going to drop down. Let's just put some gibberish in here. It's going to drop down below where I need it to. Now, when I'm looking at Harry's page, it looks fairly straightforward in terms of we've got a columns block, and within this column, we've got a heading, a paragraph, a row block with some social icons, and 2 buttons blocks, which I'll talk you through. But the first big issue, we've got to sort this issue in terms of this page template, essentially. So I'm going to edit the page template. So let's click on the list view up here so we can actually see what we've got. And this is really easy because we can just delete the stuff we don't want because we're just editing blocks. So I'm going to remove the comments block. I'm going to remove the post title block. And so really all I really want is the post content block. I mean, what I could do, actually, no, I kind of want to keep one group. So let's remove that group. So we've just got our post content in the group. We've probably got a bit of margin issues with this navigation, but we're going to go and change that in a second anyway. And let's just check out and have a look at that. There we go. So we've got a bit of a margin issue, but we've basically got rid of our post title. We've got rid of a lot of the text up here, sorry, the white space up here. Let's see if we can get rid of that margin underneath the navigation. So let's go to template parts, header, and click on the list view so we can be sure what we're doing. Let's make this bigger so we can actually see this. Now let's see if we've got any options in here to change stuff. It might be in the actual row itself. Let's have a look. Yeah, so can you see how there's some padding that's been added into the row? Perfect. There's hardly any white space at all underneath the start of my page content. So I've added a bit more text into my page because we have an issue in terms of alignment. The text isn't going to line up. So if we add a columns block, it's going to be in the wrong position. So I'm going to go and change that. It should be fairly straightforward. Let's click on list view. I think in the post content here, we can probably set the content width. So I'm just going to set that at 900 because I don't want it full width really. I want a slight indent, whether that works or not. And that looks pretty spot on to me. Right, there's 3 more things I want to fix up, I think, on this navigation at the top here. The first is we have these underlines, which I want to remove. The second is we have these nice hover backgrounds. So I'm going to need a bit of CSS for that. And the third thing is on mobile, I noticed that Harry's site has the page titles that come underneath the title, whereas mine flips into a mobile menu. So hopefully I should be able to fix that just using the core Gutenberg settings. So we're going to start by removing these underlines. Now the way I'm going to do this today, or try and do this today, is not a way I recommend you do it. I'm going to actually edit the theme file. So this definitely wouldn't be a good idea, but this is kind of a quick and dirty way to do it. And I'm actually going to go to Theme.json, which is a really, really powerful file. It lets you do lots of things, and I'm going to cover this in a future tutorial. But one of the things it should let me do, I think, is remove that underline from the navigation. So if I just search for navigation here, so can you see here we've got core navigation and then text decoration underline. Now I should be able to set that to none, and that should remove it. And I say this is a bad idea because if you make any breaking changes here, it could break stuff, which we don't want to be doing. And we might be able to do the site title as well, actually. Let's see here. So the core site title, text decoration underline. So we should also be able to set that at none. Essentially what this is, it's like an abstract version of your CSS file. Let's go and check that out. And can you see how the underline ones have gone now? Other thing that I've done quickly here is I've removed this focus underline dash that was existing in 2023. So now when we hover over these or click on these, nothing particularly happens, just like Harry's site. Right, the next thing I'm going to do is I want to change the mobile behavior. So on mine, it flips into this little mobile menu. On Harry's, we keep these words, which I kind of like actually. I think they're more accessible than the mobile menu and more user-friendly in many ways. So I'm going to go back to the edit site, and this should just be a default setting in the navigation block. So let's click on template parts, go to the header, and we need to click on the navigation block itself. So the kind of fail-safe way is to use the list view again. And this is the section we're after here, the overlay menu. Not the most friendly name for it. I'm just going to turn that off. So basically my page titles now are going to show on the mobile version of my site. Let's get rid of that. Let's go and check this out. So flip down, and there we go. They flip down below naturally. They're not exactly the same as Harry's because his are lying in the middle, but I'm okay with that. That behavior is pretty cool. Right, and the final thing I'm going to do is add some custom CSS, which I'm going to go off and create quickly. If you are looking to add CSS to a full site editing theme, you can use plugins, and I will install one just so you can see how to do this. I think there's one called Custom CSS. So I'm just adding it into my plugins. Install it here and activate it. Add CSS button here, link here, and then you should just be able to jump in here and add your CSS. And as I said, I've already written this CSS. I'm just going to update that. I will link to this for you if you do just want to copy this. And let's go and have a look now. And there we go. There's my nice little background hover effects that we've got. Now it's time to actually build out the page. So I'm going to start by saving some of these images, and I will just take screenshots of them. I think it's probably the easiest way for now. Let's grab that one. And I think when we look at this, as I said before, I think this is probably just 2 columns, fairly straightforward. So let's get rid of these paragraphs to start with. So we've got a clean page, just multi-select and remove them. Let's close down the list view, and I'm going to move that like that. So we've got 2 columns, so I'm going to start / columns. I could click on the block inserter up here, but you can do it more quickly by typing / then the name of the block you want to add. There's the columns block. I think we've just got 2 equal columns here. Pretty straightforward. And then in this left-hand column, we've just got, I'm not sure that's going to work. Oh, it's going to work. How clever is that? Just got Harry's image, his photo. Now the homepage title isn't going to show when we publish this. The thing I also want to do here is I actually want to make this wide width, I think, because that will then respect the page width that I've already set. And then over here, we've got Harry's house, which looks like a heading to me. So I'm going to copy and paste that in. Let's see if we can do that as a heading. And I think that's aligned centrally. And then we've got this, looks like a heading actually, underneath. Let's paste that in. I want to change that because it's pasted in as a paragraph. Let's see if a heading 3 is going to look any good. Probably a bit big. So maybe a paragraph block would have been better, and we can just size it. Let's see if we can make that a little bit bigger. That looks close enough. We can always change this stuff later. Let's see what happens. So it's still a bit big, I think. Let's just make that a little bit smaller. And that's a bit small. So let's jump into a custom size. That was too big, so let's go 1.5. And it looks like it's bold actually, so let's just make that bold. And actually that looks, let's leave it like that. That looks all right. I think we're close enough. Let's just change the windows. That's not bad at all. And then this is quite interesting. These social icons, I think we can probably just do as a row block. So / row, add the row, and then I'm not going to replicate these all. I'm just going to add some of these. And then we're going to use the social icons block, which is a core block. So you add the block and then you add this social icon, and I think we've got Amazon, which we do have. And we're going to change the color of these in a few minutes. So we're going to add a few more. And then what we also want to do is change the color of them. So click on the social icons block in the list view. I want to change the icon background color. And the other thing I want to do within the columns block, I want to align all the content to the middle. And that aligns Harry's house and all that stuff. And now I can add my Let's close that down. Now I can add my buttons. So / buttons, and I'm just going to pop in the text first. So I'm going to choose the outline here, and that's pretty good. And I'm going to create a radius like so in the buttons block. Let's select buttons there. Again, the list view is so useful. Add another button, and you'll see how it keeps the styles that you've introduced in the first one, which is fairly new. And then the other thing that I want to do, which I forgot to do, is I need to align them. So let's just align them. Again, click on the top level buttons block to see that. And that all looks pretty good. Harry's actually got a bit more space up there, so I'm just going to add a little bit of space. The quickest way is just to add the spacer block in like so. And let's change the height to 30. Just adds a bit more space. Then we've got a bit of space under here as well, actually. So I'm going to add the spacer block in underneath. So there's my page, there's Harry's page. From the top, looking pretty good. We've got those menu items, that's pretty nice. Again, the font's slightly different, but it's pretty close. There's my version on the left, there's Harry's on the right. My buttons, I prefer Harry's buttons really. Always got to hover on those, I haven't done that. Then we've got this option here, pretty close, and that's pretty close again. So I've just noticed that Harry also has this stuff at the bottom of his page, which is a newsletter sign up and some social icons. So the first bit of that should be straightforward. We should be able to add the row block and then add some social icons within that block, and we're going to align them in the center. So then we've got this newsletter sign up, which obviously is a bit trickier. There is actually a plugin that I'm going to try and use for this, but I saw it the other day. In fact, I reviewed it the other day, and it's for MailChimp. So if you are using MailChimp, there's a block called Gutenberg newsletter, which is a free plugin. And then you just click on the plus sign and search for newsletter, and there it is, and add it into your page. Now, quite cool because it's all blockified. If I click on the list view over here on the left, can you see how it actually adds the top level block within, and then put some columns block within it. And there's the newsletter field. So we should be able to make some changes here. What I want to do is actually get rid of that icon to start with. We don't want that. And we probably want to center it. So what I'm going to do, let's see how this works. I'm going to add 3 columns so it's in the middle. We don't want any words at the top. This is just a paragraph block though, so we can remove all this text. That's what's quite nice about this. Let's remove that one as well. Let's have a look at this. So there's mine on the left over here, and there's Harry's on the right. Not bad, not great. It'd be nice if this plugin let you actually have a border on the newsletter field and style it a bit more. And the final thing I want to have a go at is Harry's footer down here, which is quite interesting. I might be able to do this in rows using 3 row blocks and changing the background color of each row. So let's see if that'll actually work. That concept will actually fly. So let's go template parts. Let's find the footer template. Here we are. And let's just see what blocks we've got at the moment. Now, currently this row block is within a group. I'll actually move this row above it and then delete the group. So all I've got is a row block here. And now I'm going to add that as a background to that row. And I'm going to change the text color. And I'm going to change the link color and scroll to the bottom. Yeah, that's pretty good. So we've got this row block now working. We probably want to align this text to the center, and the padding's a bit out as well. So it looks like it's got some styles built into that row block, which is styling the footer. So let's check that out. It's nice now because all we've got to worry about is the row block. Yeah, cool. So can you see we've got this padding at the top, and the bottom works as well. So we probably want to add a little bit of padding. I probably want to be precise around this. I'm going to guess a little bit at this point. 15 to the top and 15 to the bottom. Now what I'm thinking, that looks pretty good, doesn't it? What I'm thinking is these down here, let's grab the color of one of these. We might be able to use, let's grab the color of one of these. We might be able to use the row block to actually add those in as well, which would be very cool. So if I go insert before, and I'm going to change this to a row block. This feels a bit kludgy now. I'm going to add the spacer block in, and I'm going to change the height to, let's say 10 pixels. And I'm going to change the background color of that row block to that color I just picked. And that looks a bit big, doesn't it? So let's change the spacer, because the spacer block is what's actually providing the height. Let's change that to, I don't know, it looks about 5 pixels. Let's save that and have a look at that. Let's see if my theory is going to fly. Do you know it is? That is going to fly. It's a bit short. So let's just, I think we want to double that, but this is going to work. Template parts, footer, there's that. And actually the spacer block is what's giving that row the height, which is there. So I'm going to change that to 10. Then what I'm going to do for speed is I'm going to duplicate that block by going duplicate. I'm going to drag that one above it, and I'm going to change the background color to that yellow color. So let's go and nab that color. You can nab that yellow. There we go, got the yellow color. And now if I change the background color of that yellow, now the other thing to say is these blocks might have a bit of inbuilt margin on them. So don't count our chickens yet. Let's go and have a look at that. Scroll to the bottom. Look at that. That's pretty cool. That's very cool. So we've actually pretty much replicated. It's not quite the same in terms of the height, but that's fairly quick stuff. So here is the finished result. Just a reminder, my attempt is on the left, Harry's website is on the right, and I think it's pretty good. I'd give myself a sort of 7 out of 10 in terms of what I've been able to achieve in about half an hour. So from the top, here's the header. I've managed to replicate his nice styling up here and the hover style on the buttons. That's kind of cool. This was actually probably the most complex thing to get right. And full site editing, slightly complex, but once you get the hang of it, it's incredibly powerful. And then down here, this was fairly straightforward. We just used a columns block, and in this right hand column we just had the heading block, the paragraph block, the social icons block, and the buttons block, which I styled by having a no fill option. Remember, I added the fonts. I changed the fonts using that fonts plugin. And then this section down here, pretty close. He has this nice hover on buttons, which I didn't have time to complete in the time, but that's okay. And actually, I kind of like mine. It's got a bit more space under the buttons, but everything about Harry's site, his text is a bit more condensed, which I really like. And then this is probably the weakest area of mine in terms of the styling down here. This newsletter sign up, I just had to use a plugin, which is a cool plugin, but it just doesn't have quite the options out the box that you'd need. So you'd have to do a bit of extra CSS for this. And then the thing I'm probably most proud about, because it's kind of a creative way to do it, is these bands down here, just using the row block and the spacer block. There's probably a more elegant way to do this than I've done it, but in the time, I think it looks pretty good. So overall, I would say I'm pretty happy with what I've been able to achieve in the 30 minutes I had. Thank you so much for watching. There was a lot in that one, so if you got to the end, well done. If you enjoyed this video, if you can hit that like button now, it would be amazing, because it really, 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 really does help spread the word of the channel. It really does, so thank you if you can. And also, every time you do hit that like button, our cats get a little treat. Thanks again for watching. If you want to see more videos like this, hit the subscribe button down below and that little bell notification. Keep well, and I'll see you soon.